Well, now that we've gotten through Love and Marriage Huntsville Reunion Part 2, and if you missed that video, definitely go check it out. That live was lit last night. We got to talk about where Carlos sees the group going moving forward. Who will be fired, who won't be fired, who we suspect will not be coming back. We're also going to be talking about Destiny and Melody in this phone hackerization. Diving right on in, okay? Now, you guys may have noticed that Carlos King is, recapping the episodes right after they air, along with one of our faves, Dustin Ross. Okay. And I love to see it because I feel like it gives us even more insight into what's going on with the reunion. Now, I picked up the story from Urban Bell Mag. And so in the episode of the reunion, Carlos did ask Melody whether or not she could see a path forward with everyone. And Melody said no. Okay. Now, when Carlos and Dustin were talking about, the core six and how much Dustin enjoyed the core six, um, as many of us do, okay, because they were the originals. Carlos says this. He says, in order for the show to survive, and I'll go on record saying this because I said this to them, there has to be a level of community amongst the cast. And we all, including me, when I met them, we all fell in love with how the original six were as a collective. One thing I know about producing reality TV is relationships go up and down. Well, he says like this, up and down, right? And so it was very interesting to note that he's very clear on the fact that the success of this show really does lie within the core six, which is why all of them are still featured on the show, which is as we're going into a new season, whether they call it season 5 or whether they call it season 6, um, it's going to be interesting because Carlos is saying that no one of the core six is leaving this group. He also goes on to say this. He says, I had to go down to Huntsville because everything you're saying, I had to say to the cast to their face. As we are filming this new season, the goal is to let's figure out a way where everybody can come back and let's see the steps with that because after the Madani melee, to see the original six in that restaurant, they all got dressed up, they all looked gorgeous, they all spoke to each other, gave each other daps, cracked jokes, and obviously Kimmy invited them over to her home to reveal that she had cancer, and they were all cracking jokes on their outfit. Now, with regards to, you know, Destiny and whether or not she's difficult and whether or not she gives anything, he says, you can't come on this show and not expect to give as much as they are. And I had to ask Destiny those questions and be honest and listen. Me and Destiny talk. We had a great conversation. She's also from Detroit, Dustin, as we are, because I'm assuming Dustin is from Detroit as well. He says, I love Destiny, but again, these are my people. And I had to be honest in terms of people have said you're difficult to work with. They have. My producers have said, we're trying. Okay. Now, Carlos also made mention that he had noticed that people tweeting that if Destiny being single is an issue, then it should be an issue for Melody too. Now, for Carlos, this seemed to make no sense. He says, I saw some people tweet tonight, well, Melody don't have a relationship either. And he says, let me tell y'all something. This is me keeping it real. This show was called Love and Marriage Huntsville. Let me back up. This show is called Love and Marriage Huntsville because of the Holts, the Scotts, and the Scotts 2.0. Melody doesn't have to be in love for the rest of her dang life because at the end of the day, this show got jumped off because of that story. When Martell and Mel got a divorce, Martell called me and said, am I off the show now? And I said, well, why would you be off the show? He said, because ain't that what happens when people divorce? The men leave, they get fired. And I said, no, we want to follow the continuation of your real life. And that's what I mean by that. Okay. He then said, so he goes back and kind of reiterates that he wasn't trying to be shady towards Destiny. It was more so Melody and Martell can be single until the end of time. They started the foundation along with Marceau, Kimmy, Tisha, and Maurice. And at the end of the day, if you want to be on Love and Marriage Huntsville, DC, or any city God blesses us with, you're going to have to follow the same narrative of you have to do whatever it takes to give your real life, because that's the only way you're going to have staying power on the show. And I have to 100% agree with that. Um, I get it. For me, there is a differentiation between Melody and Martell and Destiny, in the sense that when we're looking at the core of this particular show, it is Melody, Martell, Letitia, Marceau, Kimmy, and Maurice. That's the magic right there. And everyone that we add to that adds to that magic. But we want to keep the core six because those are the relationship dynamics that we fell in love with. Now, I think that having a good example of this is having Stormy come in. Stormy has given us the good, the bad of who she is, right? And when I say the good and the bad, I mean the shades of dark and light of her personality, right? Not to say that Destiny has not, but it does. There is a general sense that maybe Destiny hasn't opened up in the way that everyone else is opening up, particularly if someone who is typically neutral, like Kimmy, continues to say the same thing. She's echoing what the audience is saying. Now, what it does tell me, though, is Carlos believes in Destiny enough to continue trying, as do I. Okay. In terms of Martell and Melody being single or not, I do think it is important to continue to follow their journey, because I feel like, similar to what we saw with Married to Medicine, think about how much more interesting Married to Medicine would be, and it is already a top tier show, had we been able to follow Dr. G after he and Quad got divorced. Wouldn't that have been interesting to see how this group continues to move forward with two divorced people in the mix? To me, that is a missed opportunity right there. Because while the primary focus seemed to be the women on Married to Medicine, I do think that there is something to be said for involving the men. And maybe it is because I'm I'm wagering a guess it's because the women were the ones being paid initially for this particular show. I don't think the men are being paid for Married to Medicine, so maybe it would not have made any sense for Dr. G at that point in time, since he wasn't being paid. And it would have been a weird thing to pay just one of the men. So maybe that was it. But now that he is yet again, engaged or married, I can't remember if it's just engaged or not. How would he fit into this group still? Because would his wife or fiance fit into it, because now she is also Married to Medicine? Would she even want to have that dynamic? She may not. But again, this is why I say, to keep both of these people, because now we can see, how does the group move forward with these two individuals who were once wed? Will we see these relationships play out on the show? And I do feel like we need to see them. Okay. Now, moving along to Destiny and Melody. I know that you guys have seen the previews for part 3 of the Love and Marriage Huntsville reunion. Um, and it's very interesting that we see this segment where Carlos addresses, the closeness between Martell and Destiny and what Melody's thoughts were on it. Okay. And there's an exchange where, again, shout out to our friends over at Urban Bell Mag for the printout of this, because I think it's very interesting that that Melody has responded to this before the episode airs. And while Urban Bell Mag does not necessarily have post the screenshots are posted to Empress Radio on YouTube. So I'm going to link you to the article and to Empress Radio's page on YouTube so that you guys can follow, subscribe, and support, but also see them for yourself. So when Melody says that Destiny, it was questionable for Destiny to be contacting Martell in the early hours of the morning, like 1 and 2 a.m., Destiny says something to the effect about Melody hacking into Martell's phone. So then Melody on social media says, let me say this. I didn't hack anybody's phone. However, someone definitely attempted to hack into mine. I already know they've done this before and other privacy violations, hence why I changed my number so much. 1 week before the reunion, another attempt came to light, but the angels said no, 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 and whoever they paid did it wrong. Melody then goes on to say, I started getting their calls, not even realizing what was happening till I finally called one of the people back, and they told me the number they had dialed, which was not mine. So for a woman to sit up there and act like she knows some ish was stupid to me. I got to readily admit, I do not know about the phone hackerizations. I don't know how phones are hacked. I don't know why phones are hacked. I don't know who tapping in to Melody's line. I don't know any of these things. What I do know is, I want to know. Okay. Not so I could do it. But what I'm saying is, I want to know because, if Destiny said that Melody is hacking into Martell's phone, I want to know how she did it. Not so I could do it, but I just want to know the how and the reasons why. So I'm interested in hearing Destiny further explain why she believes Melody hacked into this man's phone when she was really the one that divorced him. Now, if she hacked into his phone before, okay, if she did a research like Tisha, okay, she might have. Then I don't blame her because that was just cause. Okay, it's just cause. If you think your man cheating, get up into his phone. Now I ain't telling you to do no hackerization, but what I am saying is, follow your instincts. And moreover, instead of looking through the phone, just do your research. Okay, like Letitia said. Let me tell you something. We did learn something from Letitia the other day when we watched this reunion. We did learn that you need to investigate those midday work surprises. Do your homework and show up like Sharice.